Land Use Committee meeting together for the November 28th, 2011. We have Councilors Karski, Erpenbach, and myself, Rolfing, here. Councilor Anderson has been excused. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from October 31st?
So moved.
Second.
They've been moved and seconded by Erpenbach and Karski, respectfully. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Today we have a couple of things on the agenda along with open discussion. So let's start with that. Can we start with proposed tax incremental finance district with Erica Beck? Erica? Oh, and we've got the big guy here with us too.
Yeah, I know. It's probably a disappointment. You don't get
to
Erica to come up here. And I'll be brief. Darren Smith, Director of Community Development for the city. Erica's voice challenged right now. She had a busy Thanksgiving weekend, 20-some family members over, lots of talking.
You've had a great day in the office, haven't you?
Yes.
Oh.
Said yes before I answered.
I'll pay for that one eventually.
Strike that from the record.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilor Ruffing, what I'd like to do, be very brief, actually, no presentation. What we would like to do is request a work session with the full city council around the issue of tax increment financing. And very briefly, the history is such that over a 20-plus year period, the city has only approved about 10 TIF districts or tax increment financing districts. In the last several months, and up to this point, we have potentially 5 or 6 requests for TIF that are pending or making their way through the process or potentially making their way through the process if they're at the front end today. And so clearly, not only is the number of requests up, and I think that's reflective of the local economy, the strong local economy. We're turning a corner locally. I think it's a good a problem to have, so to speak. But also, these TIF requests are different in some respects than what we've approved historically, and in terms of those internal policies and those administrative rules that the city has used again historically over the years to guide our tax increment financing policy. So we feel it's appropriate at this time. We have a mayor who's in his first year and a half. We have 5 city council members who are in their first year and a half. We think it's really a good time with the requests combined with some of that to have a good broad discussion on what we want the city's tax increment finance policy to be going forward, in terms of how flexible, how liberal we are with that policy and using it as an incentive to encourage development, not only in the core, but potentially outside the core in different parts of the city. So what we'd like to request is, again, a work session with the full council, hopefully as early as January, where we would give a very brief tax increment finance overview, a 101, if you will. We can do that in 15 or 20 minutes, answer questions, and then proceed to use maybe 30 or 45 minutes, again, with the full council, just having a good, broad discussion over what direction we want to go, and our office getting some direction from the council with the process. It starts at the staff level with a request, typically by a developer with a project, but then ultimately makes its way to the city council for approval. So we really do need to be on the same page, get some direction from the council as far as the type of TIF policy we'd like to implement going forward.
Okay. Councilor Erpenbach.
Well, I just wanted to comment or ask if the mayor is fairly new and there's 5 fairly new council members. Are you just saying we're easy, or what's your interpretation of that, Darren?
Well, I've already answered one question. I should have
But you have there must be a philosophy behind that idea that new folks. I mean, we've just passed an event center vote. Those kinds of things. Are there issues? What's making you think that maybe there would be possibility for change?
Yeah, I think it's really having my own experience on the city council and seeing TIF requests come in and be approved at that time. These requests are different in some respects. And where many of them are different right now, and it's all kind of happening at one time, is requests for outside the core, this core area that we've defined and where we have historically used TIFs exclusively. And I think if they were requests outside the core, maybe one here and one there, and they frankly didn't have much merit, or we couldn't support, we didn't think the council would support, that'd be one thing. But these are the types of projects that, at least on the front end, they do seem to be very worthy, potentially merit the use of TIF as an incentive, and they would constitute a public improvement, an enhancement in one respect or another for the community. So again, I think we just feel like it's a good point in time to have a broad discussion about, with TIF or anything, there's the way it's always been, but that doesn't mean it's the way it always has to be. And so we would just really be interested in engaging the council in that type of informal discussion and trying to get our finger on the pulse of where the council sees TIF being utilized going forward. And if that results in no change in the policy, then so be it. But I think there's a possibility it could, and we'd be interested in having that conversation.
Did you have something else?
Go ahead and ask questions.
Okay. Did you see this taking place in a working session with the council? Because this would take up, as the timeline that you had, would take up an entire working session.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, we do have something for us to consider. We do have a working session scheduled for January 11th, and there is a 2-hour time period for that meeting, and less than half of that is really scheduled on the agenda at this point.
Okay.
So if the committee agrees, that might be the place to put it.
Okay. Okay. I knew we had a working session scheduled, but I didn't know we only had about half of it scheduled up. So that would.
And I know
probably
that Council Chair Aguilar is here too, and she has been in on this conversation as
Super.
well. So,
would you like to speak to that? Would that be an appropriate time for us to bring something to the?
Councilor Sue Aguilar. Yes, we have 2 hours scheduled at this point, and I would say that council business that we have to bring forward at this point would be from about a half an hour to 45 minutes, I would guess. And so I think that we'd have over an hour to have this brought forward and have discussion and whatever presentation that community development would like to bring forward.
Okay. Did you have anything else then on that?
Nope, that's it.
Would you like to make a motion? We'll do that, or is there any other further discussion?
Can you be ready by January 11th? Do you have everything we need?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
then I would move that this committee move it to the work session on January 11th.
Second.
Okay. Hearing no other discussion, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
And it has
Thank
to
you.
stay
Thank
for
you.
an hour. Do we have to tell them when they know?
That was short and sweet. Okay. Zoning, second item on the agenda, zoning board adjustment notification. Jeff, we're going to talk a little bit about variances.
Jeff Schmidt, representing Planning and Zoning. Mike Cooper is also here, as well as Shauna Goldhammer. Back in April of this year, the Planning Commission passed recommendations and went to City Council and was approved to change their public notification process. Basically, after stakeholder discussion for multiple months, the determination was made to send out public notices by letter to property owners in the area of a development application. Now we're having that same request come through on the Board of Adjustment. Board of Adjustment is also one of the boards and commissions that's under Planning and Zoning. So we've put together a draft ordinance that you have that it's very similar to how planning items and city council items are being notified. Signs are still posted on the site, but they're being increased to 10 days. There's a written notice in the legal newspapers, and then adding a public written notice for letters to be sent out to the abutting property owners. And in this case, abutting is if it's a touching or joining that property that's being requested. It's different than Planning Commission and City Council items because they're generally larger at Planning Commission. They're land use decisions. These are really more property decisions and how they're going to ask a variance on their property. So we think abutting is the most important notification. Plus, again, they're also being posted signs and a written notification. At the same time, one of the things I'm asking to this group today is if there's any consideration for increasing the fees. When planning items came through, we increased them $50 for each applicant to cover the costs of doing this process. For a Board of Adjustment, I wouldn't consider $50 for this, but again, what the thoughts are for increasing fees.
Any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Karski.
When you say increasing fees, they're at what right now, and what are you proposing?
The applications right now for the Board of Adjustment for a hearing is $75 per application. For a conditional use and planning, they're $200. Again, they're going to run a full gamut of what the requests are. One of the Board of Adjustment members is here, Greg Nietzert, and he did a attachment to see what fees are being charged in other communities. They're ranging between $150 and $600. Typically, it looks like they're $250, $300 for an application. Ours are $75. I would think maybe in the long run we'd get it up $50, $25 to maybe closer to that $125 range.
If I may?
Yes.
What type of expense are we covering with these fees?
Sure. What we've seen in Planning Commission items is you have to do all the staff time to find out what the property owners are for adjacent. You have to create the map, the exhibits to determine that. Then you have to, again, administratively write up the letters, do the mail merges, create the documentation, because, again, it's staff that's producing these letters. In the past, any notification was done by the applicant. Now staff will be doing it. And then the mailing costs for envelopes, letters, postage to do that. We had budgeted previously $1 per mailing.
Per recipient, right?
Councilor Back, did you have something?
Per recipient, right? If you're
Correct.
going to mail 10 letters,
Yes.
it'll cost $10. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Thank you for the
Then if,
clarification.
Yes,
then if
go
I
ahead.
might, this has been something, Mr. Chair, that you and I have been pretty active on in terms of the other notifications for zoning, and so I would support this. I think this is a good idea, and I would support a reasonable fee increase to cover our costs. I mean, we need to acknowledge that it costs time and money to do those kinds of notifications, but it's a really great public service, and we've seen the benefits of it already.
And again, any cost that we have, I mean, we haven't even thought about that yet, would still have to go through Planning Commission, City Council prior to any budget discussion, so it wouldn't be until like 2013, but we'd like to have that discussion with your direction to increase the fees.
Yeah,
And if
one
I
more.
might, one other thing, and I didn't print it out, I looked at the actual wording online and then just made a note to myself there. So not in the part that you're making changes to, in the piece that's on SIRE right now, there's a point where it calls, where the word agency is used rather than the word department.
Okay.
I'm getting the look from Mike Cooper, but just, if you would just, well, I mean, I'm thinking recodification, we're doing all these detail things, let's just make that, it doesn't make sense. You're talking about the department, then it says agency,
Okay.
you know? Thank you.
The board, taken by the board, the applicant shall first file with the agency a certificate
Right.
of. So, got it.
Yeah,
Yep.
good, thank you.
And I have one, Jeff. It seems to me when we did this with the zoning, we looked at a 300-foot radius rather
Correct.
than abutting.
Correct.
Can you give me the reasoning for doing abutting on this rather than 300-foot
Correct.
radius?
You remember in the discussion with Planning Commission and those items, we got to the edge of town for a lot of the items. So they were saying what we really should do is look at a quarter mile to a half mile to get those farms, because if you did abutting or 300 feet, you'd only get one. You don't. It was really down to how many people were going to be notified of. So they said if there were 300 feet, you'd probably get that 10 people notified. Here, most of the Board of Adjustment variances are internal. They're single-family lots. They're going to have abutting properties. They're not going to have farmsteads. And so you'd pick up, as we were just referencing sitting back here, I would expect you're going to have 6 to 8 abutting property owners with each application. And those are the ones that are most impacted on Board of Adjustment. It's, I need a fence height change, I need a parking lot change, or parking spot change. And so those 8 abutting houses are the ones that are going to be most impacted.
And give us, just so we have it here, what most of this variancing is. It's fence lines, it's a
Parking
parking
space.
space on the side, the extra parking pad.
Anything else
What
on
else
this?
would it entail?
Building setbacks. So when they try to do an addition or remodel on their unit and it doesn't meet their setbacks, again, that's closest to the budding property owner, and they get signatures or sign off from their budding property owners also.
Okay, I'm just trying to think in my own mind, would it be safer, and as long as we're looking this up, just to go with the 300? And I mean, it'd be one more lot, really, is what it amounts to, wouldn't it? Or would it be
It
substantially
would be,
more?
we'd have to look at it, and we will, and we'll bring that information back, but I think it would be
Okay.
substantial, and again, if we go back and cover our costs,
That would be more.
it would be significantly more if we did 300 feet, but we'll look at that and see.
Because a lot of times in the zoning, we're looking at property that is closer to outside the city or
Correct.
close to the city.
Yep.
And we have vacant lots around, or a lot that is
Large.
maybe industrial or something
An
large.
acre, a
300
4-acre, a
feet.
5-acre site.
Right.
These are a third of an acre.
However, I'm still thinking of places that we're doing the zoning, and I'm reminded of the can crushing, or the can recycling property north, up here on North Cliff, just off of North Cliff, where we went round and round and round, and 300 feet of them was still, a number of properties that should have been included. Was that a variance?
That was
No, that was a rezoning.
It's a planning commission item. And so
Right.
again, we think the intent's met because we're still posting signs in the property.
Right.
We're still putting legal notices in the paper. We're sending out mailings. So plus you have Channel 16 and you have the website that we
Right.
continue. We think we cover it
Okay.
well.
I'm just saying you might be prepared for that, so that, because that might be something I'd want to bring up. Yes, Mike?
Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. Just as a follow-up to that question, because we thought that might come up tonight, I think as we present this or proceed with this with the council and the Planning Commission, it's important to remember that the duties and responsibilities of the Planning Commission are very different from a Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment, by state law as well as city ordinance, is a quasi-judicial board. They have very narrow and specific duties, as well as the criteria that they use to make their decision is much different than a planning commission. The planning commission is a land use board that makes recommendations. In many cases, they come to you. The Board of Adjustment is responsible for making decisions on property impacts, again, specifically for a building setback or a fence height. And so public opinion is not necessarily a reason to support or deny a variance. It's identified, and we can provide that information to you to give you a little better handle on what their decision-making criteria is supposed to be. And I think that's, again, why we believe, at least to start out with, the abutting is going to work very well versus going out a longer distance in terms of public notice. But we'll be happy to provide you with more of that information as we work through this.
Go ahead, Councilor Karski.
Question, and obviously the appeals process for a zoning board decision is to the council. Is there an appeals
no.
process?
I'm
for
sorry, finish
variance?
your question.
Is there an appeals process for a variance to the council, or
No, it
not?
goes to circuit court, and that's based on state law.
Okay, okay.
What you're telling me is there are a lot more rules and regulations on variance than there
Yes.
are on,
Yeah, they're, that's why you see their agendas are pretty brief,
okay.
and the type of variances are pretty consistent. Again, fence heights, we see a lot of those. Building setback, if somebody wants to add on either another stall of a garage or a deck in the back, those kind of things.
They don't have much variance, much leeway.
And so typically what you look at, is it going to give them some ability that you would not give anybody else a similar ability? Is there something unique to their property, either the size of it or the configuration of it, that would warrant a variance to the city zoning requirements?
Okay, understood. When would you come back, see yourself coming back, Jeff, to the to the full council with this, or where do we proceed from here?
Sure. We'll complete the draft of the ordinance through our process. We'll get a notice of hearing and go through the city clerks. If we do the December deadline, it would be at a January Planning Commission meeting, and then it would be first reading at a January City Council, and second reading and final would be the first Monday of February. So we'd meet a December deadline and go to Planning Commission in January and City Council in February.
Do I hear something from one of my compadres?
You looking for a motion to?
Does
For that?
the late January, early February council meeting meet with your approval?
Sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
that a
Can I hear a motion?
If that's a motion,
A
this is a
motion for
second.
late January to bring this to the full council, yes.
Okay. A second?
Second.
From Erpenbach? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Late January. Thank you. There's open discussion now. Does anybody else have something to bring to the Land Use Committee in November? One thing I will announce, a couple of things. We have our first urban agriculture meeting this Friday, the 2nd, and we are still looking for one other person to serve on this task force in kind of a I don't know how to put it exactly, a position that would be less favorable to the acquisition and holding of animals in the city. Not that they would be completely against, but that they would feel that some restrictions would be very appropriate, let's put it that way. And so if anyone out there or in the audience knows of someone that would be willing and would like to serve in that position, we'd love to have them get a hold of either Shauna Goldhammer or myself, and we would be happy to have them help. Another announcement is that there will be no land use meeting next month due to the holidays. We're going to give everybody a break in December and let them spend it with their families. So, does anybody else, is there anything for the good of the organization or the good of the...
A motion to adjourn?
That
Second.
would be something that would be good. And a second, and meeting is adjourned.